Good day everyone, and welcome back to another one of my packet tracer tutorials. Today we'll be looking at port security on access switches, so this would be layer 2 security. So let's get started. So for this lab, what I've done is I'm utilizing the previous lab that I built for router on a stick. So on the screen you can see the configuration that I used. If you want to, feel free to pause the video and take notes of the configuration if you want to lab this up. I will also be posting the configuration in the show notes for you to practice alongside with me. So let's go right ahead and have a look at the current configuration on the switch. So we'll go enable, show run. So from here you'll see that it is access mode, and we've got VLAN 150, VLAN 100, and then we've got our trunk going out to the router. But we are not really interested in this interface right now. We'll be paying attention to all of the other interfaces here. So basics around securing the access layer of your network is quite important, because this is the first part where people will be gaining access to your network. So whether it is people coming into your office to work as employees and such, or it might even be visitors. Now some of those visitors might be malicious, or they might be legitimate, you never know. So it's quite important that if you aren't using the ports, shut them down and secure them as much as possible. So let's go and have a look. In this environment we do not have a Cisco ISE. We're basically simulating a low budget a small remote office that cannot do authentication through an ISE or identity based authentication and posturing and things of such sorts. So let's have a look at the switch, and we'll go right ahead into configuration terminal, and let's have a look here. So what we will be doing is do show IP interface brief. So what we're going to have a look at is the interfaces that we've got right here. These ones over here, we will be editing them first. So what we can do is we can say interface range, so that we can edit a whole bunch of them at the same time. And we'll say gigabit Ethernet 1/0/4, and we're going to do this up to 24. So now that we've got access to those range of ports, so what we'll do is switch port mode access. This is going to force the ports to only be access ports and not be able to negotiate for trunk interfaces. This is actually quite important for VLAN hopping attacks and such. So now that we've done that, we can also, very important, we can go right ahead, because we know that in this environment we're not going to utilize any other interfaces. So we can go right ahead and shut down those ports. So now that that has been done, we can exit right out of here, and then we can say do show IP interface brief. And now you'll see that all of the ports that we have edited has now gone into administratively down. So now we just need to edit these 4 down here. So let's go right ahead and do that. So we'll say interface gigabit, no, we need to say range gigabit Ethernet 1/1/1 to 4, and we'll say as switchport mode access, and we'll say no shut. Cool. Let's exit right out of here and do a show run, and so that we can have a look at what we have done in the running configuration. So right back up here, guys, if the text is too small, please let me know in the comments below. I'll make the text a little bit larger so that you guys can see the configuration on the left and what we are doing in the terminal iOS command line as well. So we've got our 3 ports that we are utilizing on the switch at the moment, and then all of these have been set to access ports, and they've also gone into a shutdown state, meaning that they cannot be used. So no one can, if this was a real environment, nobody can just walk in and plug in their computer or plug in a malicious device into the network, because that port will be in a shutdown state. It won't be able to access anything. So now let's have a look at other types of port security that we can enforce. So what we can do right now, or right off the bat, to have a look at the configuration, we can say show port security, and we're just going to hit enter, so we can see actually that there is nothing enabled at the moment. So let's go into configuration terminal, interface, range. Now let's do one at a time. Let's say gigabit Ethernet 1/0/2, so that would be this one over here, coming down to PC0. And what we will do right here is we'll do a switchport port security. We'll hit enter. That is just to activate the port security. Now we still need to set the parameters. So what we can do right from the get-go is violation. This is setting the kind of violation. There are three levels: protect, restrict, and shutdown, where shutdown is the most, I would say, the most violent kind of way to do it, because the moment someone who is not supposed to join that specific switch port, the switch will put that port into a shutdown mode up until an administrator actually logs onto the switch and resets the interface for connectivity. So we'll say switch port security violation, and we'll say shutdown. And now probably one of the more important ones, what we can do is another one is switch port security MAC address. And what we can do here is we can say, like the 48-bit MAC address, we can add it in manually, or we can just say sticky. Sticky means that it will take the MAC address of this computer that it actually learned in its op table and actually assign it to that interface. The switch can even reboot. It will remember that this MAC address belongs on that port, so we can do that. And then another one that we can do is switch port security, and then we can say maximum. Maximum is the maximum allowed MAC addresses on that switch. So we can have up to 132 different MAC addresses connecting onto that interface. But for this scenario, we know that it's only going to be one. So do be careful with this, especially if you have an office where you have maybe hot desks or something like that, and you want to do port security. This is going to be a little bit difficult, because the one day you might have a person sitting there, and then tomorrow or later in the afternoon there might be another person sitting there. So it only allows one MAC address to be associated with that port. If it changes, if another person comes and sits there with a different machine with a different MAC address, the port will actually shut down and that person will not be allowed to connect. Okay, so now that that has been done, let's do the same for the other interface. So we'll go right ahead and go into the configuration. Also switch port security, and we'll hit enter, and then we'll say switch port security, and we'll say maximum 1. We'll say switch port security violation shutdown, and we'll say switch port security MAC address sticky. Okay, cool. So that's basically the extent of a quick layer 2 security that you can put on your access layer switches. So let's go right out here, and we can now say show port security, port-security, and now we can see that basically we've got port 2 and port 3, which is that one over there and that one over there. So these two, PC0 and PC1, this is the current state. So we can see that it has been enabled there. So let's have a look at the show run as well. We'll quickly run through here, and what we will see at the top here is actually quite a bit of configuration on the switchport interfaces. So let's have a look here. So we've got interface 2. We've got the Vlan. It is in access mode. It's into a non-negotiated state, so it cannot negotiate to become a trunk anymore. So port security is enabled, and we have set to switch port security MAC address sticky. That is great, and the same counts for switch port gigabit Ethernet 3. So this is really, guys, you can go and enable this kind of configuration on all of the other ports as well. I do not advise to do it immediately. I would rather do it the way that, if you do have a new person joining the network or on that specific switch that you need to connect another device, rather only do it then, so that you know that you are allowing the correct MAC address to be associated with that port, and not going into a error disable mode. So also, if you want to do troubleshooting and you know that you've got these commands enabled on the ports, first thing that you can go and do immediately is show IP interface brief. You'll see whether the status is currently and the protocol is currently showing up or administratively down. And another one that you can do is show port-security, and this will actually tell you the current address account that is associated with it, the amount of secure addresses that are associated, and how many times the port has been violated, and what security action will be taken on that port should there be a problem. Should there be a problem on the interface and the port goes into a shutdown mode, all that you need to do is simply go back into the gigabit interface or Ethernet interface, and you can issue the no shutdown command, and the port will come back up. If the port goes back into a shutdown interface, if the interface shuts down again, then you know that a device with the incorrect MAC address has been associated or connected to that port, and you can go and tell the people, hey, unplug your machine because your machine is not allowed in there, or you can just completely disable it for testing purposes during that period. Guys, again, don't do this on a live network. You will restrict people on connecting into your network. So do be careful where you do this. I highly advise first lab it up, show your managers what you're doing. Use this for studying purposes. It's really great. It's a great way of doing your very first line of security, especially if you are on a very strict budget where you don't have something like a Cisco ISE or a Aruba ClearPass or something like that, where you can do posture assessment on devices. Later on this channel, I would like to do more labs, including Cisco ISE and Aruba ClearPass, to show you guys more identity-based access management. Well, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and see you guys in the next one. I hope that this was informative for you guys, and enjoy. Cheers.